Welcome everyone to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And guess who's back? Net neutrality's back. The Federal Communications Commission announced this week that it has voted to restore net neutrality in a vote of 3-2. As a result of the vote, the agency has now been authorized to reclassify ISPs as common carriers under Title II of the Communications Act here in the U.S. Essentially, basically making them kind of like a utility service for us, which is what they were before. I guess it wasn't very long lived, right? 2015 or 2014 it was enacted in 2015, and then it basically repealed in 2018, and here we are in 2024 and it's back. So it's kind of close, but not exactly carbon copy of the 2015 net neutrality. Some of the things that are basically causing people heartache is that it now gives the agency the ability to authorize blocking of certain websites. So, there's been talk in the past about the U.S. blocking certain access to sites and things like that. And this kind of sneaks it in under the radar under the whole TikTok ban things going in here. So it's going to give the government, if things don't go the way they want, the ability to basically firewall off that. You can't get to it, run VPN, that's how you're going to get into it and things like that. Think of it as the Chinese Great Firewall. The U.S. is basically going to follow suit and start blocking sites, right? It gives them the ability to now, so they could take sites like, remember back in the day, Pirate Bay, it's still around, but some governments blocked it, but the U.S. government didn't, because we really treat kind of that stuff as like open business. It's like, hey, there's uses of legitimacy for that and illegitimate, mostly illegitimate, but, we're not going to block it. Now this kind of gives the FCC grounds to block whatever they want. That's kind of bad, I think. I don't think that you should not block the access of information. I think that's part of a freedom of information. In my opinion, information should flow. And the only people who block access to information is like the Chinese, because they don't want you to see things that would put them in a bad light or let the people know that things are different. Or, in the case of like North Korea, there are people with internet access, they don't have internet access, right? Because they don't want them to see how good lives are outside of the country. Then their propaganda doesn't work. So, I don't think that you should block the access of information. Having net neutrality is cool until you give a government control over who can access what. Basically, they took away the ability of ISPs to throttle traffic and do things with traffic and gave it to the government. We all know that the government's a horrible, horrible judge of business. Everything they put their hands into turns to shit, for as far as, everything. The government doesn't need to be in business of any kind. But there needs to be some rules and governance around things. Like, that's why net neutrality was a good thing, but net neutrality with strings is not a good thing. So if they decide that they want to block a site, the government can say, well, this net neutrality that they basically voted on gives us the ability to do so. So, I'm all for treating it as a utility, and it's a right of citizens to have internet and utilities and heat and things like that, and water. That's part of the rights. I think you cannot live successfully in the modern world today in the U.S. without internet, in my opinion. You cannot. Like, you go to find a job, you are not walking into a place and handing them a paper resume. They're like, you need to go online and fill out the online application. And if your only option is to go to the library, which might be all the way across town, or maybe your town's too small to have a library, then you're screwing yourself. And I think that all citizens should have access to the internet as part of a utility thing. We knew this was coming. They announced last year that there was some voting on it. So I have not dug too much into comparing the 2015 net neutrality enactment and this one to see what is all different, but there are more differences than just the couple that I mentioned. And if anything, and they talk about this in some of the articles I read, COVID really kind of proved that this is a necessity, right? In this country, everybody was told to go home for a few weeks and not go outside or not do anything. Could you imagine not having a service, like the internet or something, because your ISP decided that they need to throttle your traffic? to certain sites, or they could govern where all your activity is going. Oh, everybody's stuck at home. We're going to throttle your Netflix, or we're going to throttle your streaming services because we need it for this or that. There are times when you need to throttle services in national emergencies and throttle services away from things so you can give more bandwidth to the things that are necessity. But that's not what this was. This was just, our ISP decided that there's too many people watching Netflix. We're going to throttle Netflix. Or, it happened. People complained about all these ISPs throttling everything and anything. Whether it was to compensate for their crappy networks, or they were having to pay too much to their central hub ISP, for all the traffic that they were routing through there, because everybody was working from home or not working from home and just playing video games or watching TV or streaming or something. So net neutrality needs to be there, but it needs to be more neutrality and less government hands in the pot. Nick, what do you think about them basically voting back in net neutrality?
Well, I think it's good. Net neutrality is a good thing. Net neutrality with, like say, with strings attached is not a good thing. So, you get the right, or the wrong, I should say, the wrong people in government dipping their hands into the blocking sites and being able to control what users can and cannot see. And then you start the propaganda stuff, right? That's when you start pointing the citizens into a direction you want them to go, right? And not being able to see certain things that you don't want them to see. Whether not because it's not necessarily because it's a bad thing, right? It's just something the government doesn't want you to see, right? So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, net neutrality is a must. Net neutrality is a good thing. It allows for ISPs not to be douchebags when it comes to the internet, and makes the internet a basic public utility, which it should be, so that everybody can, like you said, everyone can have it. And it's just the same as like electricity and water, and gas and sewer and all that stuff, right? Basic needs. But yeah, I don't like the fact that, the government has their hands in the cookie jar when it comes to what users can and cannot see. We'll have to see what comes of that, right? I don't think like the government's going to right away start doing that stuff, but I could see, again, depending on who's in government and who's controlling what, you could see a lot of things start to, change or be not allowed, right? And that part scares me, right? That type of stuff scares me. So, and then, and who's to say that, again, depending on who we have in office, not just for the presidency, but for different positions in different areas, what this could turn into, as far as, the fact that they put this contingency in there. And who else, I haven't read it either, but who else knows? We would have to read through the bill, but who else, what else is in there, right? That they snuck in, right? There could be a lot of other stuff. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's good that net neutrality's back. But I just don't like the way that it's back, right? Not with the strings attached, not with the government having a hand in the cookie jar, the fingers in the pie. Get your fingers out of the pie.
Which really surprised me, because from what I was trying to dig up, they actually haven't released all the articles yet, right? The new articles for the net neutrality. And that's kind of worrisome, right? Is that we don't know what all's in there.
Yeah, because what else is in there, right? What else have they put in there? Because the government likes to sneak crap in there all the time, like when they introduce certain bills.
Right. And there's good things and there's bad things, right? Like, I don't believe that ISP should have the ability to throttle anybody or anything, because if you pay for an unlimited plan, you get an unlimited plan. But and everybody says, well, nothing really happened between like the 2018 and now, but we just had the major settlement from AT&T because they were throttling unlimited customers' data, and they got sued for it in a class action lawsuit. Now, the government should have been whoever the watchdog, the FTC, should have been able to jump in if net neutrality was still a thing and be like, you can't do that. We're going to fine you, and then we're going to give money to these people that you defrauded. and that's essentially what they're doing. But it's everybody claims that these ISPs were on their best behavior because there was always been rumblings that net neutrality is going to come back. So they were like, I think they were trying to position themselves like video games with ESRB of self-regulating. But ISPs, in my opinion, can't self-regulate. There's not enough transparency. Because if they're throttling traffic and not saying anything, they tell you have an unlimited plan. You should have unlimited. There should never be throttling. That's not unlimited. If there's throttling, then it's not unlimited. But I think there's good things about the net neutrality, and there's going to be bad things. The bad things is some of these provisions that we have no clue that are being put in there yet, and we need to see it. So, it's going to give the government more oversight and coming down on ISPs who don't maintain their networks, don't maintain security, all the things that you expect, and fairness, right? Like, you shouldn't say this person's getting faster speeds because of some arbitrary thing we decided. It's broadband for everyone is technically what it should be, and affordable, right? Prices didn't go up a whole lot during the whole 2018 to now. They did go a little bit, but I wouldn't say they were exorbitant or anything. But I think that ISPs would have had a hard time justifying the death of net neutrality as a reason to increase their prices. But stranger things have happened. But now the government has basically restored some of that functionality. And at what cost, though? There's got to be more to be determined at a later date when we can see the entire however many pages this thing is going to be. And I'd like to see the dissenters' argument of why they voted against it, right? It was a 3-2. So, and it's supposed to be 400-page draft order. So I'd like to see that, and I would like to see why those that were against it voted against it, to see what was their reasoning. It might give you some clue where to hone in on that 400-page report, because I myself am not going to read a 400-page report probably full of 80% legal jargon that I have no clue what it means, right? So, but it sounds like there's some new strings attached with new government oversight, and they can block things they don't want you to see. Good or bad, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, not too happy about that part. But
that's the only thing we know about, though, right? That's the one that may be like the most benign part. The most benign part of it. There may be like 5 pages of these are the current block websites we're going to block, because you still get to the Pirate Bay, even though that's the most notorious freaking pirated site out there for torrents and stuff,
Right. Yeah, I mean, the two dissenting congressmen or whatever they are, it's probably because they are getting paid by Comcast, Verizon, or AT&T. More than likely.
They shouldn't.
I figured they would all be paid.
All right. Yeah, I would. The commissioners, because they're commissioners, the Federal Communications Commission, so they're commissioners.
Okay. Commissioner Gordon's.
Yeah. So I would like to see the two dissenters, Brandon Carr and Nathan Symington, I think is his last name. I'd like to see their dissenting statements.
And it could be more of, given, playing devil's advocate or given the benefit of the doubt, it could be the government overreach, right? Maybe that's why they dissented. They didn't want that to be a part of the bill, having the government's fingers in the pie. So being on to block sites and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll have to see what it says.
Yeah. So there's always going to be a lot of back and forth, and I don't know what's going to happen. Net neutrality, there are certain things that we need to protect, and I believe in net neutrality to an extent. I believe in the things that the parts that say the internet for everybody. I don't believe in the parts that say the government can dictate what you can get access to and things like that. The government wants to have their secrets, whatever, but the government shouldn't lock off parts of the internet because they don't like what the American public is going to do with it. If the American public decides to do something illegal, then that's where the law comes into play. If they're not doing anything that's illegal, then go where you want to go. See what you want to see on the internet. As long as it's not illegal, and you're not hurting anything, then, it is what it is. If you want to go on the dark web and see stuff that'll make your eyes bleed or, whatever, more power to you, as long as what you've done is not illegal. So, but I don't think it's the whole, what was it? Stopping crime before it becomes a crime. What was that movie?
Minority Report.
The Minority Report, right? It's going to say, well, this website can be used for crime, so we're going to block access to it.
Right.
So, they're just going to be like, we're going to prevent this. This website has had a history of people going on and abusing its information for illegitimate purposes. Even though the majority of people that use it don't commit this crime, we're just going to go ahead and block it from everybody. Nobody gets access to it. One bad apple ruins a bunch.
Yep. Tom Cruise is going to commit a crime.
Yep. And you're going to pay the price for it.
I'm going to pay. That's a good movie. But yeah, we'll have to see. But I mean, I'm like you said, I'm glad it's back because of I think it should be for the people, for everyone. It should be a utility for the masses. But again, I don't know what else they've snuck into this bill. So,
right. Yep. Well, you got anything else about net neutrality and that it's back?
No. Good, I guess, for now.
For now, until we can dig into that 400-page report. So, let us know. What do you think of net neutrality's back? You think it's a good thing? You think it's a bad thing? Are you worried about the things buried in that 400-page report that we've not gotten access to yet? Let us know down in the comments what you think about it. We're a little torn over here about it. Good things and bad things, just like everything else that comes around these days. It's got good pieces and bad pieces attached to it. We can't just have all good pieces. No, never going to be that way. Can't be all good pieces. Got to be good with the bad. So let us know what you think down in the comments. And we have reached the end of this episode. If you're not subscribed, come on now, help us out. We need your subscription numbers to help us out so we can keep making videos and running our mouths all the time about video games and things related to video games. Because net neutrality may not seem like it's about video games, but most of your video games are online. And if they can slow down your access to that or throttle your bandwidth to that certain game, then it does affect that. So, and as always, we hope you enjoyed this episode and we hope to catch you in the next one.